Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are doing another movie review. This is Groundhog. When winter ends, the killing begins. Before we get into our review, I just want to give a shout out to my friend Bronco Juggalo Talks Movies. This week I got a package from him, and this is the VHS classic of Scars of Dracula. So he knows I love the Hammer Dracula film, so I was really excited to get that in the mail. It's a nice little collector's item. So thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And here we go. Groundhog is written, directed, with the music by Dave Maggot McDonough. Produced by Matthew Fisher for Boombastic Films. So the film stars Sam Hayes as Logan Tanner, Kissa Gwendolyn as Jane, and James Balsano as Travis. So what happens is we begin the film. The local townsfolk are gathered around for Groundhog Day, and they want to see what the groundhog says. Is there going to be 6 more weeks of winter? Or are we going to get right into summer? So the dude comes out with his top hat and everything. And he brings out the groundhog. And psst, it's not a real groundhog. The groundhog declares 6 more weeks of winter, unfortunately. And here to cover the event, we have Logan Tanner, who is a cameraman, and his girlfriend Jane, who is a news anchor. And they are there to cover the story, to cover the event of the Groundhog Day. And what happens once they leave, once they wrap up filming, they go off in the car and go home. But on the way, there's a big snowstorm that hits them. And they slide and they get into a car accident. So when his girlfriend gets out of the car, bam, she's smacked by a snowplow and gets killed instantly. In bloody, gruesome fashion, of course, because this is a horror movie. And what happens is Logan is really traumatized by the events, and he starts seeing visions of his dead girlfriend everywhere he goes, you know. And you see her body is horribly mutilated as the film goes on. At one point she's like cut in half with like her intestines hanging out. And this really freaks him out, so he starts seeing a therapist. And the therapist prescribes him some medication, which he tries to move on with his life. He takes the medication, he tries to live normally. We see him at his office with his fellow co-workers, and one of them being Waldo, played by our friend Dave McDonough. And he does a great job in the film. He's hilarious. He gets to swear all he wants, and he's a really funny guy. At one point he's like, dude, you need to start working faster because I got to go home and watch cartoons. I love that. And he got this dude, Travis, played by James Balsamo in the film. He's such an idiot. He's such a douche. At one point he like picks his boogers and slaps it on Logan. And at one point Logan gets pissed. He's like, because at one point he takes Logan's medication and cuts it up and snorts it up his nose like it's cocaine. And Logan grabs him by the tie and he's like, nobody touches my power tie! That's classic. It's awesome. A lot of funny moments in the film, a lot of great jokes. It's definitely a horror comedy, I would say. And it's definitely in the vein of the 80s style slasher films, along with the Herschel Gordon Lewis films like Blood Feast and The Wizard of Gore and things like that. So I'd say it's a combination of the gore film along with the 80s retro slasher style. And it's got an awesome synth soundtrack of that 80s style synth soundtrack like John Carpenter or Goblin and it really adds to the film. I love the soundtrack. And what happens is Travis starts to really lose it because he doesn't have his medication now, because this chump snorted it up his nose. So now there's nothing to stop him from seeing these crazy visions of his dead girlfriend. And he completely has like a mental breakdown and snaps at his job and starts killing everybody in the office. And we hear the death metal soundtrack, and it's awesome. I love hearing the death metal soundtrack in there. You don't hear that too much in movies today. You hear metal a lot in like horror and stuff, but you don't hear death metal too often. And I love death metal, and I love hearing horror and metal together as one, united. But yeah, as he's killing the guys, you hear the death metal soundtrack in the background. And he grabs Travis and he rips his jaw right off his face. And then he takes a big stack of pens and jabs it right in Waldo's neck, so we get to see Dave Maggot McDonough die in brutal fashion. It's a lot of fun. So the gore effects are just way over the top and a lot of fun. So what happens is Logan decides if there's going to be 6 more weeks of winter, there's going to be 6 more weeks of killing. And his ultimate goal in the end is to catch the groundhog and kill him off once and for all. And end this madness we call Groundhog Day. So he kills everyone that gets in his way. At one point he rips a girl's face right off, and at one point he grabs a shovel and kills that guy Alexander Hawk. Stabs him right in half with the shovel and picks his legs right off his body, and you see the intestines hanging out. It's really nasty. And his weapon of choice in the film is some kind of like walking stick or something. It looks like he shaved it down and sharpened it. So it's a pretty effective weapon. That's definitely his weapon of choice in the film. He does some real damage with it. He jabs it right in the dude's chest at one point. And let's not forget to mention that he goes around on the killing spree wearing a groundhog outfit. A really cheap groundhog outfit, I might say. But this movie is such a fun love letter to the 80s style slashers, and of course the Herschel Gordon Lewis style gore films. And it's just an absolute blast, and it's so fun to see Dave Maggot making a movie with his buddies. You can see a lot of them aren't professional actors per se. They're just like friends of Dave's and Matthew Fisher's. And how fun is that? You get to make a movie with all your friends together. What an awesome experience it is. And it's such an awesome experience getting to watch it and having so much fun in this great horror slasher film. So guys, I highly recommend you run out and grab Groundhog. Written, directed, and music by Dave Maggot McDonough, who also is in the death metal band that's featured called Children of the Dying Sun. So when you hear that death metal music with the growling and you know, that's him on the vocals. So again, check out Groundhog, written, directed by Dave Maggot McDonough, produced by Matthew Fisher. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.